Hello my friends, welcome back to part 2. This is looking quite nice. We have did a beautiful scene here with a very kind of Alaskan sort of mountain with shadow, snow and this beautiful warm area down at the bottom, this lovely kind of field. Lovely rich yellows and siennas. So it was quite a relaxing experience to paint. If you haven't seen part 1, have a look. It's just so nice to be nice and free with the palette knife and the brush. Lots of texture, and all we have left to do is this lovely little tree in the center with lovely rich autumn colors on the tree, and that's kind of a focal point then. So it's a simple scene but very effective and very colorful. So let's finish part 2. I hope you've enjoyed part 1, and I hope you've learned something from it, something small, even just a little tiny little hint that might help you in your painting. It is my pleasure. If you have any questions, please do just ask. Send me an email or comment. I'm always open to suggestions and advice as well. And you know, let's get talking. So do subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit that like button as well. Let's go on and finish this lovely oil painting. A lovely little tree. Let's go on and have some fun. So on to this lovely tree. There's a reference photograph. Lovely simple colours, very eye-catching. So let's start with the tree trunk. I'm going to take a small brush, and look, you could paint this in black, but I'm going to just maybe take a little burnt umber, some thinners and a bit of black. So not completely black, let's say. And you want this nice and wet. Now my painting is still very wet, so I'm making this very wet, lots of thinners in this, just to really get a covering. And it still might kind of blend into the background a little bit, but look, here goes. Come on, let's try it. Let's go like this and come around like that. You can see how that's dragging across the canvas now. We want plenty of thinners in this. Very watery, almost like a watercolor, almost. And let's go nice and high now with this tree. I want to make a real proper impact with this tree, a real nice impact. So I'm going to go nice and high. I might even decide to go higher than what's in the photograph as well, because I really want to create this focal point in this tree. And just always, when you're painting branches and stuff like that, always wiggle your brush, give it a little bit of a wiggle, okay? A lot of beginners tend to make their branches and their tree trunks very sort of straight and very sharp like this. Okay, you don't want to do that. Just imagine you have a shaky hand, your hand is very shaky. That's all you need to do. Just give it a little bit of a wiggle, look. And just go in all directions. Don't be afraid that, you know, you can only go in a certain way. You can go in all directions. Wiggle your brush around, because that gives the illusion of lots of detail in the painting. So don't be shy. Okay, don't, just go for it. Now I'm going to just thicken up some of these down here. I just want this to be nice and thick and give it a really nice impact in the painting. That's all I'm trying to do. So this lovely kind of silhouette, and simply just keep picking up paint on your brush. That's all you need to do. Just keep picking paint up. And we're just going to kind of crisscross along a lot of these. They're sort of crisscrossing over each other and under each other and all of that. So basically just get some black paint and just go crazy. Look, just put a lot of little twigs and branches here, there and everywhere. Now just black, I'm thinking, for the top. And you know, we're probably not bad at that. You know, I want to be very careful not to overpower the painting with the tree as well. I need to be careful about that. So I don't think I need to go really much higher than that. I did want to kind of create a lovely impact in the painting. I was going to go very high with the painting, with the tree up around here, but perhaps it might overtake the painting a bit too much. So it might be just as well to keep it slightly bigger than what's in the photograph, just a little. All right, now I think that's fairly good. I'm going to then sit that down into the ground just by carrying the paint across and leave it kind of soak in and blend into that shadow there, look, okay? And just kind of dab your brush here and there just so it sits in the earth and the grasses and all that. Just kind of soften it down so it sits down. And we're good at that. The next thing we must do is these lovely foliages. Now, there's a number of ways of doing foliage on a tree like this. You could use a fan brush, of course. That's a lovely way of doing foliage. If you want to go for the more kind of clumpy effect, I would go for a medium flat brush like this. But I would say use something that's quite worn, perhaps. Now, we could also use this new brush if we want, but it's fairly soft. I don't think I'll get the texture from it. So I might just use a kind of run-of-the-mill kind of medium flat brush. It's well worn. It's not very worn, but it's well worn. You see the way they kind of splay outwards. Let me go over here. You see the way that kind of splays outwards like that. Perfect for these little clumps of colour. So let's start. I'm going to start with some cadmium yellow, a little burnt sienna, and some white. And I'm not even going to mix them, look. It's just all stuck on the tip of my brush. We can start with this slightly lighter colour. Maybe it's a bit too bright. Let's just add a bit more sienna in there. And let's just create first, I think, the outside shape up on top. It might be the best way forward, wouldn't it? Just to create the shape of the foliage around the front edge, around the top edge. So we just keep going like this. And the secret, I find, is really just doing it in little clumps. And I'm going to go darker down in here. A little tiny touch of burnt sienna with black. Tiniest little touch, look. And these can be the shadowed areas then over here. And we have a very similar effect in here, don't we? It's a kind of a dull brown, sort of tucked inside the centre of the tree. So I'm just going to fill that area in, creating this kind of dull effect. And when I'm painting trees like this, I generally like to kind of begin with the darker shades. Now, I only put this around here just to get the shape of the tree right. But I generally like to start with the darker side of the foliage first and work in my lights. It just seems to work a little bit nicer, I think. Okay, that's fine. That's our darks done. Next we have the rich, bright colours. And let's get some yellow. And I think I will just go with a yellow with a bit of burnt sienna. Now that may not be strong enough yet. You could maybe chance taking a touch of magenta as well. That will give you a much sort of more kind of an orangey feel. I think that's maybe a little better. And let's just dab this colour in. What I would say to you when doing this is try not to dab too much in one spot, okay, because you end up with muddy clumps. So I generally tend to dab like this, let's say, in a spot like that. Just keep going until you're happy, and then when you feel the colour getting messy, stop and rub your brush on some tissue. And that keeps your colours nice and fresh. Okay, so I'm just painting in little clumps, and I don't want this getting muddy or messy or anything like that, so I'm being very careful. I'm just taking my time. Now I'll go into some cadmium yellow even on its own, perhaps a tiny touch of sienna, but I've mostly cadmium yellow on my brush. And I'm just brightening these just a little, look. I'll maybe take some naples yellow as well. I'm softening them then down into the dark. So let's go again, let's try that again. Very gently, and we can go in then to some of these. Give some of these a little bit of brightness, just here and there. Now already that's looking quite nice, isn't it? And for me then, perhaps the final step of all of this, I just want to get a real warm colour. So I'm going to take some cadmium yellow and a touch of magenta. I just want to get a real kind of an orangey, yellowy shade. Magenta, cadmium yellow is a great colour for this. Let's take a little touch more magenta. It can be tricky finding the right colours. It does take time. I just picked up a little burnt sienna, just a touch. I'm just going to warm it slightly. So for the very last step for me, I'm going to just get some more cadmium yellow on my palette. I'm going to go for a very bright colour, a very, very rich bright colour. I'll try cadmium yellow, a little touch of sienna, and a bit of white. And just remember, not too bright, okay? Not too bright, not too rich. Let's just start really putting some bright shades in here and there. Look, little clumps. And that's just acting as a kind of separator. It's separating the clumps from one to another, you see what I mean? Just small little areas. And just go along like this in small little sections until you're happy. A little bit down on the outside here. And perhaps, let's see, go one or two more up here like that. So it's small little clumps, you see what I mean? Now how's that? I think that's quite nice. I don't think it's overpowering the painting too much. I think it's just enough for what we want. And there we are. I am going to call this finished. Before I go, I might just add a hint of light just here and there on the tree trunk, just a tiniest little bit, catching the light side. It just adds a little hint of realism, I suppose, and it gives it that round effect. So it tells you that there's a light side and a dark side on the tree trunk. And perhaps one final step, I'll just go underneath that with some yellow and white and just kind of sit that down. Just a little look. There could be suggestions of little flowers or whatever, but a little hint of a very bright colour just around the centre. And that, my friends, is pretty much done. I'm happy with that. That's all I want to achieve. You know, I don't want to go crazy. I just wanted to give you a kind of a quick example of how you can capture the atmosphere of a painting. And I think I've captured it. And there we go. I'm going to zoom in slightly for you, just to show you a little closer up. And how about that? Now, if you still weren't happy with the tree, if you thought your tree was kind of blending in a bit too much, you can just grab a palette knife. And I'm just grabbing my palette knife here now. I'm going to mix up a bit of that sienna with cadmium yellow. And look, I'm just going to go along with my knife and just give a couple of little dabs as well. And that thick paint will stick proud from the canvas, and it will give you almost a 3D effect, as if they're, you know, actual little leaves and little clumps. It'll give you a lovely effect. So you can do that as well. You don't have to just use a brush There's many different ways. But I'd be careful not to overdo this. I don't want to spoil what I have. Do you know what I mean? But you can just use this technique just to add a bit of texture onto the tree. And I think that's fine. I'm not going to go near it anymore. I think it's absolutely fine. And there we go, my friends. Part 2 finished of our wonderful little scene. Thank you so much for the reference photograph. If you have any more reference photographs like this, please do send them to me. So there we go, finished. I'm very happy with this. With the lovely soft, cool colours against the lovely warm colours down the bottom, and it just works, doesn't it? It's a simple scene, but very eye-catching, I think. Do try it. Just be careful not to go too far and overdo your painting, because it's very easy to go overboard. What I would say to you is just maybe paint some of it, stop, stand back, take a look. If you feel you've enough done, leave it. You can always come back to it, but be very careful. It's a very tricky time to know when to stop. Just be careful with that. You know, don't overdo it. Thank you so much for joining me and watching my tutorial. I hope you've got some hints and tips from it. Please do subscribe if you haven't done so, and give me a like, and you know, stay tuned. There's a lot more beautiful paintings coming your way. Lots of simple techniques, but maybe a few complicated techniques as well. So it's a very varied kind of a channel I try to run. I try to keep it, you know, simple for some artists and more complicated than for other artists, if you know what I mean. So I'm trying to find a balance to suit everyone. I hope you're liking it so far. God bless, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you and take care.